So recently, Gallup, a pollster that's famous for basically dropping monthly presidential approval ratings, and as we're going to get into right now, party affiliation polls, has come out with a very interesting stat. And this new stat shows that among Americans, which party they mostly identify as, 48% identify with Democrats and 41% identify with Republicans. So this has basically broken what was a 3 year streak under the Biden administration of Americans moving away from Democrats and towards Republicans. Very, very interesting, considering the fact that for a while it seemed that Democrats really had lost a lot of ground. And as 2024 showed, they very much did. But it seems like with Donald Trump being back in office, that has basically reversed, and now we've seen the opposite, where more Americans identify with Democrats, and the shift has been pretty rapid. So, why is this happening? What does this mean? And essentially, what does this also bode for the midterms and potentially even 2028? So first off, I kind of just want to just say this because a lot of people may overlook this when seeing this stat. Typically speaking, you're always going to see a shift towards the party out of power as an incumbent takes office, especially as of recent, with how partisan we are and how quick Americans are to turn on whoever the incumbent president is. So, this kind of shift is not super surprising. However, what is surprising is how big the shift is because, again, +7 in affiliation towards Democrats, that is a big shift. That is bigger than it was at this time in 2017. And it kind of shows that, for one, it really was an anti Biden wave that made the country more Republican, more so than the country basically generally shifted conservative. Although I will say that on many cultural issues, we have shifted to the right in the past few years, and that's just outside of partisanship. However, it clearly was, at least in Americans just wanting a Republican under Biden, was just an anti incumbent party thing. However, another thing that this does show is that Donald Trump is indeed unpopular, and he's also shifting a lot of Americans back to Democrats, like in a large form. And this is kind of shown if you just look at his approval ratings. They're not doing that well. They're not terrible for Trump, but they are underwater, and that's showing no signs of changing anytime soon, especially as a shutdown is still ongoing and the economy is still wobbly. In terms of what this could mean for the midterms, well, this same time in 2017, party affiliation was solely just a few points more in Democrats' favor. That kind of began to shift even further pro Democrat as time went along, but in 2017, with basically half this amount, Democrats had a blue wave. So, does this mean a blue wave is in the cards next year? Possibly, however, this is the thing, Democrats are still very unpopular for one. The gerrymandering is going to cause a lot of House seats to not be as friendly to Democrats as they could have been otherwise. And also, Democrats still are kind of in a position where they don't really have a branding and they kind of have an identity issue. And also, enthusiasm for voting is still high in both parties. So I'm still in the camp that 2026 is not going to be a blue wave, but after seeing this, I do think it's more likely than I would have thought before seeing it. And I think that maybe it won't be a blue wave per se, but if Democrats manage to get let's say 25 seats instead of what I'm expecting to be 15 to 20 next year, and the Senate goes a little bit less Republican than we're expecting, because right now I'm expecting it's going to stay 53-47, or maybe 52-48. Maybe it could go down to 51-49, but that's if things stay this way. It's really hard to tell. Again, this could very well shift the other direction. Anything could change this, but the key thing to note at this moment is that Donald Trump is very, very much so not helping Republicans optically for next year. He is unpopular, but also it's too early to tell if this means anything for Democrats, as generic ballot polls are still showing the midterms are going to be not quite a blue wave. So right now, advantage Democrats, but you still got to wait and see. So we got one more year to find out what's going to happen. Yeah, basically just wanted to rant about that.